All set over there? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First off, I'm joined up here today by Mayor Brandon Johnson, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox, ATF Chicago Special Agent in Charge Chris Ammon, and U.S. Marshals Great Lake Regional Fugitive Task Force Diego Grimaldo. Also, we have Leo Schmitz here from Cook County. Also standing with us is Chief of Detectives Antoinette City, Deputy Chief of Detectives Kevin Bruno, Commander of Central Investigations Andy Costello, members of our investigative response team, Lieutenant Pat Kinney, Sergeant John Lally, Sergeant Anthony Green, Sergeant Nathan Gadzik, Sergeant Mary Kate Naninga, I've always had a hard time with that one, Detective John Campbell, Detective Jeffrey Rodenberg, and Fugitive Apprehension Sergeant Kevin McCann. First thing I'd like to do is thank them for the hard work that they put in to apprehending this individual who committed such a heinous crime. Earlier this week, we honored the incredible life of fallen Chicago police officer Luis Huesca at his funeral services. Today, we honor him as we hold accountable the offender who is responsible for his murder. Xavier Tate has been charged with first-degree murder, aggravated vehicular hijacking, and possession of a stolen firearm. Our detectives have been working around the clock to track and apprehend this dangerous individual to keep him from hurting anyone else. This past week has been unimaginable for the family of Officer Huesca. Amidst their grief, they faced the additional burden of knowing his killer was still free. That changed on Wednesday night. Following a multi-state manhunt, CPD and the U.S. Marshal Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force tracked Tate to the apartment in Glendale Heights, Illinois. And Luis was with them. Tate was taken into custody using Luis's handcuffs. This truly was a coordinated effort between multiple federal and local law enforcement agencies and prosecutorial partners. I want to thank everyone who had a vital role to play in apprehending this individual. Members of CPD's investigative response team, area detectives, homicide investigative support teams, area technology centers, Forensic Services Division, the Bureau of Counterterrorism Tech Lab, SWAT, and the Bureau of Patrol. The U.S. Marshals and Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force, ATF, and members of the Crime Gun Intelligence Center who processed the ballistic and firearm evidence definitively linking Tate to the murder. The FBI, the United States Secret Service, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Office of Inspector General, Aurora PD, the Cook County Sheriff's PD, Olympia Fields PD, Glendale Heights PD, Richmond Park PD, Park Forest PD, Kane County Juvenile Justice Center, the DuPage County Sheriff's Office. The Cook County State's Attorney, Kim Fox, and her office, I would really like to thank, as well as DuPage County State's Attorney, Bob Berlin, and his office. I also want to thank everyone who shared our community alerts as we search for Tate. Tate, in a matter of seconds, took the life of someone who was trying to make our city better and safer through kindness and compassion. Tate evaded police for more than a week as the Huesca family buried their beloved son, brother, uncle, and friend. I ask that everyone continue to keep the Huesca family in your prayers and thoughts. They need our continued support as they navigate life without him. I'd like to say a couple of things and then I'll turn it over to Chief City. It is important to understand that removing this individual from the street does not only bring justice to the family, the Huesca family, it also ensures the public that he will not have the opportunity to commit the same offense on anyone else in our society. We have individuals who are out there to cause harm. And what you see standing here is a coordinated effort by everyone to put an end to that. And I cannot say enough about the collaboration that you see standing here. This is intelligence-driven policing at its best. And this is the direction that we're going as a police department. So having everyone standing here today working with the Chicago Police Department, I can't say enough about these people who are standing here. Just excellent, excellent work, and I'd like to thank them all for their partnership. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief of Detectives, Antoinette City.
Thank you, Superintendent. I want to thank everyone standing here and all of the partners who supported us during this investigation. They worked diligently to build this investigation and track Tate so we could bring a measure of closure to Officer Huesca's family. Detectives immediately responded to the shooting scene on April 21st and canvassed for evidence. After locating video of Tate in the area of the shooting, detectives traced his movements back to a business where he purchased a bottle of water using a relative's bank card. Detectives identified Tate through the relative who allowed Tate to use the bank card. Both the water bottle and the clothing Tate was seen on video wearing earlier that day were located near where Huesca's stolen car was located. During the investigation, our partners at the ATF and members of the Crime Gun Intelligence Center immediately began processing ballistic evidence recovered from the shooting scene. Tate's DNA was present on this evidence. Additionally, Tate's fingerprints were discovered on a fence he was seen on video jumping over following the murder. The investigation also led officers to a residence on the 100 and 800 block of South Hale on April 26th. While conducting follow-up there, officers observed a man inside the residence throw a weapon over a fence into a yard. This handgun was found to be Officer Huesca's service weapon. Detectives then conducted a search warrant at the location and recovered ammunition and magazines. Charges of aggravated unlawful use of a weapon were approved against the man. In an effort to apprehend Tate, members of CPD's Fugitive Apprehension Unit and the U.S. Marshals Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force went to Wisconsin and Iowa based on information that Tate had fled the state. Further information revealed Tate was in Glendale Heights, Illinois, where he was arrested on Wednesday. The individual Tate was staying with was charged in DuPage County for concealing and aiding a fugitive. In partnership with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, detectives secured charges against Tate yesterday. This would not have been possible without the investigative support we had from the partners Superintendent Snelling mentioned earlier. I also want to thank all the community members who provided information and video that helped us identify Tate as the suspect. Detectives collected video from more than 90 locations. This video and the assistance from the Gage Park community was instrumental. I cannot stress enough the great and meticulous work done by our detectives and CPD members during this investigation. Like us, every partner in this investigation wanted to bring closure to this case for Officer Huesca's family. We also wanted to prevent any further violence by this offender. I'd like to now turn it over to Cook County State's Attorney, Kim Fox.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Superintendent Snelling, Mayor Johnson, and good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. Once again, and far, far too soon, I joined the Chief of Police, Superintendent Snelling, Chief of Detectives, Antoinette Ursetti, and Mayor Johnson to address yet another tragedy that has rocked our city and took the life of one of the brave individuals who has dedicated his life to protecting our great city. As we stand before you today, we are united in our resolve as well as in our sorrow. In response to the profound loss of Officer Luis Huesca 2 weeks ago, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office has taken decisive legal action. As you have heard, we have filed first-degree murder charges against Xavier Tate Jr., as well as charges of aggravated vehicular hijacking and possession of a stolen firearm in the death of Officer Huesca. The defendant will appear in first appearance court at the Layton Criminal Courts Building starting at 11:30 this morning in room 102. These charges reflect the severity of the actions that led to the tragic death of a man who served this city with integrity and with bravery. Officer Huesca was a 6-year veteran, and his commitment to our community represented the best of what it means to serve in law enforcement. As we bring these charges, we remember his service and we honor his memory, and we are committed to a thorough, ongoing review, ensuring that our pursuit of justice is meticulous and unwavering. I, too, would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to the Chicago Police Department officers and our law enforcement partners in Glendale Heights, whose diligent work led to this suspect's apprehension. I also want to commend those who stand here today and those who are working in the field for their meticulous efforts as well. Their dedication and their challenge under these challenging circumstances reflects the best of our law enforcement community. I also want to take a moment to commend the Cook County State's Attorney's Office Felony Review Team, especially Supervisor Jennifer Dillman. This team worked swiftly and meticulously over the last 36 hours to ensure that the charges were thoroughly reviewed and appropriately filed. Their professionalism and their commitment have been critical in this pursuit of justice. I know that I speak for Superintendent Snelling and Mayor Johnson when I say that we are committed to the safety and the security of all of our residents. We are profoundly grateful for the bravery of our police officers who put their lives on the line every day for each and every one of us. I want to once again thank everyone involved in this investigation. We are working together today and every day to ensure justice for all in our communities. And we especially want to ensure that for the family of Officer Huesca, they know that justice will be served. With that, Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Thank you, State's Attorney Fox. Thank you, Superintendent Snelling and Chief Ursetti, for you all's leadership. I want to first just reiterate my deepest condolences for the Huesca's family and the entire police department. I, along with the entire city of Chicago, we grieve together as we still struggle with this loss. But I am very much honored to stand here with the full force of government at multiple levels of government that has provided real precision in its execution of this next step as we seek justice. The brave women and men who served to protect and to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, I'm grateful for their service. And finally, as much as this has been a tragic loss, we are very much committed to ensuring that all of our residents of this fine city are loved and protected and feel safe and secure. And me and my administration, we are proud to support and stand with Chicago Police Department. My confidence in Superintendent Snelling, Chief Ursetti, and the entire police department has been strengthened in this moment. So I'm grateful that we are moving with expediency to bring justice to the Huesca family. And again, I am deeply sorry for this loss, but yet confident that we can build a better, stronger, safer Chicago together. With that, I will turn it back over to Superintendent Snelling.
Thank you, Mayor. With that, if we have any questions.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, this is Sarah Maki with CBS Chicago. You mentioned, this one for police, that there was further information that took you to Glendale Heights. Can you elaborate on what that might be? And can you talk about any role that that $100,000 combined reward may have played?
You want to take that one?
First, I'd like to thank our partners who came together to offer that reward. From the moment this investigation started, our detectives constantly were developing actionable intelligence. Without getting into too much of that, I'm going to say as they followed up on every bit of intelligence that they were gathering, it led them to go to the Madison area and the Dubuque area as part of the investigation and then back to Glendale Heights.
Sandra from NBC Chicago. Can you just clarify how long he had been in Glendale Heights? Because neighbors that we spoke to told us that they had seen him there weeks before. They didn't know who he was. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you for your question. So please understand at this point, we're going to continue with our investigation. Obviously, we're here to announce charges for the murder and the related offenses. But our commitment is to making sure that anywhere that Tate was, as we determine who he was with and what he was doing, will be held accountable for their role in that. The one thing I want to emphasize is that we know exactly where Tate was when Officer Huesca was murdered. And that's what we're here today to announce.
Two questions. One is just to clarify the relationship between the person who's been charged with tossing the weapon over the fence in the back. Is that Tate's brother, a cousin? Also, was he staying with a cousin in Glendale Heights? The second question I have is the nature of the encounter on the street when Officer Huesca returns home. Was he able to fire back?
I'll let you take that.
For your first question, can you repeat that again for me, please?
So you have Cassius Tate.
Oh, the relationship. Thank you.
The relationship?
So much. What I will not be able to do today is confirm whether there is blood relations between these individuals that are related, or I'm sorry, that are involved that you're asking about. What we can confirm is that there obviously was a relationship between Tate and these individuals, but I'm not going to be able to confirm whether or not there was any blood relationship. And your second question, please?
Just the confrontation when Officer Huesca returns home. He's dressed in his uniform. I'm hearing that he had a coat on over his uniform. But in that confrontation, correct me if I'm wrong, but in that confrontation, was he able to fire off any shots at the offender?
No, Officer Huesca did not discharge his firearm during this incident. There was only one caliber of casing ballistic evidence that was recovered, and that is from the evidence that led us to identify Tate. Okay. No problem.
Any indication if Officer Huesca was targeted and how many times he was shot in this confrontation?
What this investigation showed is through the very exacting work, I again really want to emphasize that they recovered video from 90 different locations and with businesses and community members supporting us, is that we are able to track Tate's movements well before the encounter when Officer Huesca was returning from his tour of duty. So at this point, we don't have any information that is leading us to believe that he specifically was targeted, but that we believe that Tate was in that area walking around when he committed this offense as he came upon Officer Huesca parking his vehicle.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I have an off-topic. I'm happy to defer.
Hi, Dave Strew at Sun-Times. Did somebody give up Tate's location to the police, and is someone claiming the reward?
At this time, I really want to say that the support we got from the community and the information was outstanding. I also want to acknowledge the role of these detectives with their consistent and relentless investigation and interviews with individuals that developed all this information. So at this point, what happened with this investigation is it's difficult to say any one bit of information led us to where we are today. But what we do know is that everybody who contributed any tip or information, including those who assisted us with video that helped us at the earliest phase of this investigation, be able to put together that video that we were able to put out there, that we're thankful for everything that they did.
Mayor, can you talk about the decision ultimately not to attend the funeral, and just tell us about that conversation with Comptroller Mendoza, who then went and tweeted about this conversation she had with you?
Showing up for the people of Chicago is something that I do every single day. And, again, at this moment in which this family is grieving a tremendous loss, I certainly, again, want to reiterate and emphasize my deepest condolences. The conversation that I had directly with Officer Huesca's mother was that she requested that I not attend the funeral, and I honored her request.
Craig Dellamore, WBBM Radio. Superintendent, I'm sure a lot of people have watched everything that has happened over the last week and thought if even someone like a police officer could be a victim of a carjacking, what hope is there for the rest of people out there? What can you say to people who are afraid that this can happen to any of them at any time?
Well, that's an excellent point, and that's why it's important to understand the work that we're trying to do as a police department. What happened to Officer Luis Huesca that night, that could have been anyone's son, anyone's brother, anyone's father, uncle, nephew, and we understand that. We as a police department understand that we don't want anyone in the city to be victimized by this level of crime, and this is why we're working on a different and a higher level to gather enough evidence that when we capture individuals who are committing these types of violent crimes, that we can get them off the street and keep them off the street. The only way to really get to the bottom of these types of crimes is to apprehend the individuals who are committing these types of crimes and then to hold them accountable. And the work that you see here today, that's the direction that the Chicago Police Department is going in. We want to make sure that when we're gathering evidence, that we're doing it in the most intelligent and professional way possible so that when we present these cases to the state's attorney's office, there's no doubt that we have enough evidence to have this person charged. And then when it goes to court, we have enough evidence in this case to get this person convicted so that we keep these types of individuals off the street.
Mike Krauser, WBBM Radio 2 for Chief or City. Were you tracking a cell phone and a vehicle, and how quickly after the incident did you have the ID of this guy?
So in terms of how we were able to develop our, intelligence throughout this, I think some of the information we may have put out, if not, I'll just say, and we recently were up here just announcing it, all of the technology that the city allows for us was very instrumental. And the tools that we have and the training that our members have to use that technology did help develop leads in this investigation. And what was your second question, sir?
The second one was, how quickly after the incident did you have his ID?
Well, we had that video out shortly thereafter as we worked our way back through, as we mentioned earlier in our statement, as we worked to backtrack with that bank card and conduct an interview. It became apparent to us who was involved, and at the same time, we needed to get the information out there with the video. There's a lot that goes into presenting these charges and being able to positively identify somebody, but the use of that bank card at the earliest part of the investigation was very helpful for us identifying who was involved.
Question for the mayor, please. Mayor, if I can just follow up on what was said before. Would you mind going to the podium for us? Well, I wanted to follow up because there was some confusion with your press team, apparently, after you were called by Mendoza and the state representative and told that the family did not want you there for the funeral. Your press statement went out that night saying you were going to attend the funeral. Can you explain what happened? Was that a mistake, or were you still intent on going to the funeral despite their wishes for you not being there?
So it was important for me to hear directly from the family. And once I had a direct conversation with Officer Huesca's mother, that's when we made the commitment to honor her wish.
Can you confirm for us when that conversation was? Because we understand that earlier in the week, your office or your chief of staff had been told that they did not want you there.
That conversation happened the morning of the services with Officer Huesca's mother.
And if I can just follow up too, we were told by Susana Mendoza that Officer Huesca's mother had felt that, or had been told by her son that he did not feel like you have the police's back. Could you respond to that?
Well, look, as I've said repeatedly, this is a real demonstration of what government ultimately has a responsibility to do, is to show up for people. And from our U.S. Marshals to our local police department and police departments around the region, our state's attorney, our detectives division, my office of community safety, all of us showing up together to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. That work continues, and we're looking forward to the continuous collaboration that's necessary in this moment.
I just wanted to make sure I was clear. Judy Wang, WGN-TV. You mentioned that there was somebody charged in DuPage County with concealing and aiding a fugitive. Is that related to a relative that lives at the Glendale Heights address?
I am not able to confirm, again, any blood relationship with the people that are involved here.
Okay, so there are two other people arrested besides Mr. Tate who are connected to this case?
Correct.
Okay, but the Glendale Heights, so you're not confirming the relation, but there was another arrest, and that was the...
In DuPage County,
Right.
correct. And then the one on 800 block of South Hale.
Okay, that one's a weapons charge?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Jesse Echeverria with Univision Chicago for Superintendent. Although the general public celebrates the arrest of Tate Jr., there are also comments questioning whether the police department invests the same time, resources in the rest of the cases that we see of victims of gun violence in Chicago. Could you provide a message to them, an answer to that?
Absolutely. And what I can tell you is that our police department works diligently behind the scenes in the same fashion, with the same vigor, because we're out to bring justice for every family. It's not just because this was a police officer, this was a human being. And what we want to do is bring safety and justice to every human being out there. We know that anyone who loses someone to gun violence suffers as much as any other family, and that's including police families. What I will tell you is, because this is a high-profile case, it's in the media, it's being followed, you get to see the work that's being done here. The other thing is, because it's high-profile, there are people who are willing to step up and pass on information to us. One of the things that would be so much more effective for us as a police department if people were willing to call a tip line, send information in to the Chicago Police Department. But I can guarantee you the work that is being done on cases that are not as high profile, the same level of work is going into it. But as I told you earlier, when you look at the team that's standing here today, this is a collaborative effort that we are going to be applying moving forward, with every effort to take violent criminals off the street, especially those who are engaging in acts that seriously injure people and those who are taking lives. So that same vigor is going in, and we will continue to do that as we move along. And like I said, our detective division, our police officers are working. They're working, and we see it with the cases that they're closing right now at this time.
Michael Puente with WBEZ, it's for either for the superintendent or the chief. Is there any indication that Tate knew the person he was targeting that night was a police officer?
One of the things we put out is that when Officer Huesca returned home, he was in his uniform. He did have a cover over the top. But at this point, I think from an earlier question, what I will say is nothing in our investigation at this point has led us to believe he targeted Officer Huesca because he was a law enforcement officer.
My next question is for the mayor. Mayor, in one of the earlier transmissions on that night from the scanner, indicated that one of the ways the police found out that there was a shooting in that area was through ShotSpotter. And yet ShotSpotter is going to be going away. Why is that? And is there any, you might change your mind on that?
As been stated, there are a plethora of forms of technology that are ultimately used to render justice and deliver justice and to create ultimate community safety. No, I am not reconsidering my commitment to the cancellation of ShotSpotter.
Hi, Alex Hernandez, Block Club Chicago. Did Tate have, as of now, are you aware of any previous history he had with law enforcement or criminal record?
He did have a criminal previous criminal history, and that was within the county of Cook as well as outside of.
Good morning, Superintendent. Sam from the Tribune.
Good morning, Sam.
Shortly after Officer Huesca's death, it was announced that it was determined that he died in the line of duty. I was hoping you could provide some details as to how that determination was made. Our Chief of City, just mentioned that he did not fire any shots. Like, did he announce his office? Did he take some sort of police action during the process? Like, how was that determination reached?
Those determinations are reached based on how officers respond. We're not there, and we don't have a recorder out there to know if the officer announced his office. But anytime an officer is faced with criminal activity, being attacked, and that officer responds physically in any way, shape, form, or fashion, he is now acting as a police officer. He was also still dressed in full uniform, even though he may have had a jacket over it, but that's how that's determined.
Good morning, Alice Yin of the Chicago Tribune. This is for the mayor and superintendent. The U Chicago president released a statement just now saying we have reached that point where the encampment set up by pro-Palestinian demonstrators must be cleared. Would you support the university forcibly removing students there? And at what point would CPD be authorized to assist UCPD?
Our ultimate goal is to make sure that people are safe. And anytime demonstration is being delivered, and we're going to continue to assess all of these demonstrations and these moments of demonstration. We're at a critical point in our nation's history, and so protecting people's First Amendment right, of course, is paramount. But again, it really requires full assessment. The superintendent and I, we've been in constant communication along with my chief of staff and deputy mayor for community safety around a host of things that we can implement if and when intervention is needed. We're also paying attention to what's happening around the country. One of the things that I'm actually very proud of is Superintendent Snelling's commitment to constitutional policing and de-escalation, as well as making sure we're providing a safe, secure place where the First Amendment can ultimately be protected. But we will continue to evaluate and assess these demonstrations throughout the remainder of however long they last.
From a law enforcement perspective, and the mayor is 100% right, the number one thing that we're committed to is making sure that people can express their First Amendment rights. What we're more concerned about than anything else is the safety of everyone. We can talk about the encampments. The question is, what's happening with the encampments? Are there violent acts at these locations? Are people in danger? Those are the things that we would be most concerned about. Obviously, we're in communication with leadership in most of these situations. What we don't want to do as a police department is escalate any situation unnecessarily. So we take our time, we assess these situations, and if it's not necessary for us to go in and attempt to start removing people, then we won't. What we'll do is rely on those universities and the campuses to determine what needs to be done on their end, and we'll work with them if necessary to get to provide them any help if necessary.
And to quickly follow up, can you respond to the ACLU filing a lawsuit against the city and saying that the DNC protest permit denials are unconstitutional and that Chicago is unprepared for the event?
We are prepared for the DNC. There are ongoing conversations that we are having with not just local police, the local police department, but the Secret Service as well. My vision for the DNC ultimately is to have a safe, energetic, vibrant convention. And I'm confident that we will be able to deliver that. You know, as far as applications are concerned, there are parameters in which we are working with that individuals who wish to demonstrate, we're asking those individuals work within those parameters. If there is a mayor that understands the value of protests, it's me. You know, I've led many demonstrations before, and I understand the value of being able to express your political belief or ideas in order to move your government. That's why I'm mayor of the city of Chicago now. But there are a host of considerations and factors that I have to keep front and center. And again, making sure that those who wish to protest and demonstrate, as they should be able to, that we're doing that in a safe, secure space. But we're also allowing all aspects of government to continue to take place during that week. The DNC is a big deal, and there are individuals who live in the city of Chicago who still have to go to work. They still have to prepare for the first day of school, which is the following week, a whole host of other activities that are happening. And so there's a coordinated effort to ensure, again, a vibrant, energetic, well-displayed Chicago, this convention, while also keeping into consideration how we protect and keep demonstrators protected and secure, and of course, to make sure that residents who may or may not participate in the DNC can move throughout the day without too much interruption.
Hi, Mayor.
What they said yesterday was that
No.
they wouldn't be able to have the parade.
Craig, come on. Craig, come on. Let's respect everybody here.
WTTW's Heather Sharon. Mayor, this one's for you. Sorry to make you keep walking back and forth.
It's okay, as long as you don't make me run. All right, sorry, it's too soon.
Wow, this is going to be a really awkward question to follow that. But since 2022, internal affairs investigators in CPD have launched at least 3 probes into approximately a dozen officers with documented ties to far-right groups, including the Proud Boys, labeled by the FBI as an anti-Semitic white supremacy group, and the Oath Keepers, whose leaders, of course, were convicted of seditious conspiracy in connection with the January 6th insurrection. But in every case, CPD has taken no action, no disciplinary action against those officers. We just heard a plea from Superintendent Snelling for Chicagoans to help the police. How can Chicagoans trust the police department when those officers remain on active duty?
Well, look, there's an entire set of standards that allow for full investigation to be able to substantiate whether or not someone belongs to, you know, an unconscionable hate group. You know, in those instances in which you've described, I'll be quite frank with you, I will happily do additional research around what you've just described. But what I am clear about, though, if evidence, or if there is no evidence that corroborates or substantiates someone's involvement as a member of one of these groups. There are very few courses of actions that can be taken. Now, what I can say confidently is that the superintendent has been very intentional about paying attention to individuals who are bad actors or who have displayed reprehensible behavior. So again, what I do understand is that full investigation has to take place in order to substantiate one's involvement or not. And as that investigation plays out, then decisions are ultimately made.
During the campaign, you promised that if there were officers who were documented to have ties to the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, that they would be removed from the police department.
Yeah, if that evidence comes forward and it's substantiated, I still stand by that.
Three probes haven't been able to result in any disciplinary action. Are you concerned that this represents a failure of the police department's ability to police its own and take action against officers?
Look, again, there is an entire process that the police department adheres to. If there's evidence that someone is confirmed to be a part of a hate group, absolutely, I still stand by my position. And, we do certainly respect the rule of law. And again, the thing that I do know is that Superintendent Snelling is very much committed and capable of leading this department. And if there are individuals who have been sworn to serve and protect, if they reduce themselves to that type of ideology or affiliation, then yes, I still stand by my position that those individuals should not receive the honor to wear the badge of the Chicago Police Department. Thank you all very much.
Hold on. Let me follow up with that. Heather, I hate that this, the announcement of charges for an individual who committed an act of murder turns into this, but let me just be clear with you. It's misleading to tie this to January 6th because you know very well that this investigation started before January 6th even occurred. When it comes to investigations, it's about what we can prove in any particular investigation. So what I will tell you is what's going on right now. Either by the end of the day today, if we can get all of the reports prepared, it will be up. The complete investigation will be up for you and everyone else to read through, just to see the measures and the steps that were taken for this investigation. I can tell you that we have reached out to everyone. Our Internal Affairs Division has reached out to everyone to gather information to determine if these officers were actually proven to be members of hate groups. So that information will be there for everyone to read. We also invite the Inspector General's office to take a look at every aspect of that investigation and give us feedback. We've actually reached out to them as part to help with that investigation. So before we assume that these individuals were proven to be a part of a hate group, let's look at the entire investigation. And let's not mislead anyone into believing that this is tied to January 6th, because it's not.
The Oath Keepers are tied to January 6th.
It doesn't matter. This is an investigation that occurred prior to this. This is, Heather, you know for yourself that this is an investigation that was going on long before January 6th occurred. So so I'm not going to continue to debate this with you, Heather. The full investigation will be online. You'll be able to read every aspect of it. And that goes for every single person in the room. So thank you.